Start now.
Okay, very good evening. So this is the first live session for architectural conservation and historic preservation. Um, Welcome, whoever you are watching on YouTube. And I have received some questions, but you can put your question on the YouTube, those who have already joined and those who will be joining. So we will discuss that. Okay, so only four have joined, Vanita, so far. So we will start. I can repeat that again. Okay, as you can see. Okay, so let me start with some of the general queries which we have been receiving. So one is about, I'll come to the theoretical concepts later on or about the course, but some general queries is about the assignments. Uh, Many of you haven't been able to attend or finish the assignments in time and other thing. And it is not mandatory to have the assignments to appear in the uh, examination. But what I suggest is that whether you decide to appear for exam and not, but or whether your time is over or you couldn't submit the assignment, but please do the assignments on your own so that you have a better idea about the course. Because even if the time is over and if you do the assignments on your own and if you can also match the questions and if you have queries, you can put it always on the dashboard so we can answer your queries. That is for better understanding apart from certificate, another thing. But also for certificate, if you haven't been able to do all the assignments, at least some, there are 2 or 3 more assignments which can be finished on time. So please try that. It's very important to do the assignments for certificate exam as well as understanding the course. This is an application of the what has been discussed. This is number one. Number two is that some of you have put a question that what will be the question type, those who are appearing for the exam. We cannot share last year's question. We really don't have that access or we can't do that. But please, if you do the assignments properly, all the assignments, as I say, you this will be generally the trend. There may be a little bit less or more or some a bit of difference, but doing the assignments will give you an idea that what will be the questions. So you should be able to handle it properly. So this is the assignments is very important. Another thing is the references. Everything can't be discussed over the course. And also, it has been for 3 years or 4 years now, something have changed. So what is there is that there are a lot of links when the course slides are there. Links, and there are reading materials and reference material. We will also upload some more reading materials. I suggest you also try on your own to go to the link and see the reading material on your own. And especially all the reading materials link, and also it's very important to see the charters and conventions, which we mention in very briefly, but it's always the basic idea of all the charters, major charters, which are being discussed or mentioned. It's very important to see the charters and convention to give, for example, the Athens Charter, the Venice Charter, the Washington Charter, Nairobi Convention, the Amsterdam yeah, for the integrated. This will come. There's some of you are in the, you're going to be on the 7th week, I think. No? And so far we have covered, I think this week we have covered the decay, the diagnosis, and other. The next 2 weeks, we will be discussing on the next 2 weeks. Yeah, we'll be discussing on the more, we'll go on a larger perspective of the cities, regions, and the areas, historic area districts with a lot of examples. I know these next 2 weeks will be really, really cramped because we'll be discussing a lot of things in these 2 weeks, and practical application is very important. And there we will also discuss the adaptive reuse and the infill or the new buildings in historic settings with examples. So these are very important for generally to have a broader, larger perspective of that, and also the bylaws and other things. So these next 2 weeks will be intense, and please take care of that. And I have got some questions. So let's see, take the questions so one by one. Uh, one general, a lot of queries are coming about this degrees of intervention, like the terms restoration, conservation, adaptive reuse, consolidation. So there seems to be um, some sort of a doubt. Now, let me tell you one thing, that these are all under the broad umbrella of conservation. Now, what we do, let's say if you take Konarak Sun Temple. Konarak Sun Temple overall, what it has been done, it has been restored. It has been restored because um, I'll come to this later, this question later on. There is a question in the chat. So what has been, it has been restored. So what has been restored? The major temple, the Garbhagriha that sort of got damaged, and there were many debris, and they have been putting back. But now when they have put back all the wheels and the horses and other thing, they have not really reconstructed the entire temple. So the Garbhagriha, whatever they could sort of reassemble, what we call anastasis, has been done. And then the rest, so it is not a reconstruction, it's a restoration. And in doing the restoration, there have been places where consolidation was required or preservation was required. So in parts, there were all those things. But overall, it has not been reconstructed. It has not gone to that state like the Aswan Dam. It has been restored. And in restoring, some are being preserved, some parts are being maintained, some part are being, consolidation has been done. So this is what we call that it is the, depending on, even if you take a little part of one overall structure, I mean, there are, if and in one part it is preservation is enough, then it leave at preservation. If it's some part that just the maintenance required, we leave at maintenance. But overall, we say that it has been restored. So this is the concept. It has not been reconstructed. Similarly, there was a question about beam and consolidation and other thing. Yes, probably that for that window, the consolidation was done. But overall, these are examples in many of the things. So that should be very clear. But the major essence of that is minimum intervention. If this is what is can help it. Another question, we say the ethics that it should be reversible. Generally, nowadays we say, though I mean, we still follow that ethics, but generally we take the principle that, okay, keep it, do whatever is done with proper documentation, but later on better technology may be available. So that time we can take care of that. So documentation of what is the intervention has been done is a major part. And before that, the diagnosis, what is required. I think probably this week, all the case studies have taken care of that, how to diagnose the things. Okay. There has been a question about adaptive reuse, that what is the uh, adaptive reuse. The question is that guidelines available for the contains a heritage management for a project for adaptive reuse. Yes, adaptive reuse will be discussed in the last week, and though we will discuss some of the case studies, that time we will give you some sort of, but generally I'll give a principle. It will become more understandable when you do the adaptive reuse. One is that First of all, when a structure is there and is not no longer being used for the original purpose for what is built, but the structure is there, so the adaptive reuse come. So rehabilitate the building or the structure or the complex, whatever. So what is the first thing is required is the general principle is that you sort of try to find out if it is a listed structure, or if it's a heritage structure, what are the what are the values, why it is a heritage structure, and not only overall. By that, when I say rehabilitation, it has to also identify. That's why the documentation that times becomes very important. That let's say there is a particular window or a fenestration or an opening, which is very important. Okay, for that, it contributes to the value of that. There are certain things which may not contribute. For example, there are a lot of structures which are original ceiling roofing system, which are very traditional construction technique. And nowadays, what people try to do is that while rehabilitating, they do the false ceiling. Now, that what the false ceiling does, false ceiling covers up that part, which is an integral part of the construction technology, which is also visually should be done. And also in the process of this false ceiling, it actually damages that part. Okay, so because if that type of technology, false ceiling, that is a part of that value, then we'll try to see that this can be written, that can be visible, no damage can be done, even there. So you have to find an alternative, which probably wouldn't have thought in a new building or a new structure. And there are ways, there are options. So this is very important. So first is that why it is important, what are the parts which contribute to the value. So this is very important in an adaptive reuse. Then a condition assessment is absolutely required for that, because for before any intervention for the adaptive reuse, do the thorough condition assessment that what is required, and then you try to find that what is the best use compatible, so that you don't need much alteration to that. Okay, and of course it has to be made contemporary, it has to be safety, the fire hazard, all the things, services that can be taken, but what is the base, so that has to be a proper balance. So the safety is also required for the building, for the people who will use that. So there has to be a detailed documentation that these are the intervention which are required, and for each of that intervention there has to be a detailed report. I think that's not being discussed in the adaptive use, but we will try to upload some documents like that, where there's an impact assessment. Okay, impact assessment is that if this is done, what will be the impact on the that component of the heritage, overall the structure, all the part of the structure. An impact assessment can be done high, low, medium, so there can be a graded. So when the impact assessment is done, then also there can be a mitigation measure. Yes, there is an impact, but these are the mitigation measures for that. So that type of document is very required for that. And then if it is required to replace some part, if it's not required to replace any part, but that's okay. If it's replaced, it shouldn't be, as I say, reconstruction, but it should be harmonious. Okay, if the original material, sometimes people do go to the stone or the machinery, go to the original quarry that where the stone is there, to find a similar stone which is available or not. If not, they're the most likely, most closer thing. So these are the things. So we will, when we'll do the adaptive reuse, though we have discussed some of the case studies broadly, but we will try to see if that we can give a doc. But these are the basic principle, that first, what is the value, then the condition assessment, then impact assessment, that for or not only the overall building, overall, yes, but also for each and every part, because there may be some structural interventions required majority of the case. Then the mitigation. The major principle is that the respect, that why this is important, and you are actually putting in somebody else's shoes. It's not like doing an inter, but of course there can be modern contemporary material, contemporary technology and other there. many challengings. The new infill extension to the old buildings have been done, which is doesn't copy the old building, but in the modern. So have to have a dialogue. So there are so many good examples come up, and if you have specific question, we can also share some of the case studies later on. This is so much we can talk about the adaptive reuse for the moment. And also there is a question that uh, presents challenges to preserve historical places in India and way forward for this is. The challenge in India is that the state archaeology and the Archaeological Survey of India already they have huge number of structures and sites to protect. The number is huge, and it's just not possible to take care of all these structures and sites and other things by the government alone. I'm just mentioning alone. It's very important to involve the community or take responsibility of maintaining, managing the sites. So there can be a hand holding of the organization, the private parties, and the ASI and other to see. So ASI is overburdened with all the sites, so it's not possible to do that. So that's why the community involvement. Nizamuddin, the Humayun's tomb, which will be discussed, which is a very good example of how it is an ASI building, World Heritage Site, but how the surrounding Nizamuddin Basti and one of the nursery, Shundar nursery, they all have been, they're from the different era, they are important for different things. So how they've been integrated. And it was Tata Group has financed that, Aga Khan came up and DDA came up. So it's really a very good question of community and how while doing that thing, Human's tomb, the community has been involved and they like addressing their education, their school, so that the people feel that they are a part of that heritage. And heritage doesn't mean one single layer of history, it means all layers of history, all types of. So the community involvement is becoming more and more important rather than only the structure. So this is the ICOMOS, India has taken yeah, that charter that it's the democracy and heritage, which is very important. People can do a lot. I mean, that is what is one of the challenges of the historical places in India. That and to take there are a lot of private properties. Who will do that? So see what can be done. All cannot be listed. Be careful in your own way, and also the intangible heritage, the people's power, the people's involvement, the community involvement is very important. It should never be a top-down approach. And of course, one of the other challenges in India and everywhere is the urbanization, because of the urban growth, the cities are growing. So a lot of these heritage places, they are being um, threatened. Okay, they're being threatened, but there are way outs. It's not that there are no aware. One has to understand, go back to the cause, question, and of course, one must remember it is a multiple specialist who has to come. It's not only architect's job, it's not only engineer's job, it's the sociologists, geographers, the people, NGOs, social workers, geologists, historians, archaeologists, they all are part of that and they all contribute to the understanding of this. So this is a very important. Yes, but ASI is why not preserve rare historical sites? Yes, there are sites which ASI is adding up to his list. It's not they are not adding up to his list. Still, one can make an application to Archaeological Survey of India or State Archaeology to enlist, and if they find it very it should be listed. They still are doing that. That is, but I still feel that community involvement, taking responsibility of one's heritage is very important, and that's why it's a lot of work with the community. And there is a question uh, that what is the darshan kakdiya? What is the minimum mark should need to assignment for appear in the exam? I don't think that there is a minimum marks for the assignment. You can appear in the exam. Only part of the assign out of eight, I think six assignments are taken, and there is a ratio. It is there in that thing that these 30, Vanitha, it says 30% or 20% of the assignment marks, which is added to the exam, 70-30 proportion or 20-30. We'll check that. It is written there.
It's
But
mentioned on the
it
course
is,
dashboard. I'll
I think
share the link.
20 or 30% something goes to your final marks. Exam will be on 100 marks, but I mean, there is a how much will come for the assignments and how much, but there is no minimum mark for your appearing in the exam. You can appear in the exam without appearing in the or getting any assignments, but the assignments add to your things. Okay. There is another question is that um, there is another question which is about the preservation can be termed as maintenance, isn't it? Yes, preservation is a maintenance, but what is the difference between the first degree and the second? I mentioned it very clearly that preservation is as it is. Generally, it is, of course, it's a maintenance, a little bit of repair work, whatever, you can do that. But the indirect, which is the first degree, is that you are not really touching the structure. You are trying to find out the cause which is creating a problem of the structure or other thing and try to solve that. So that is indirect, that you are taking care of the environment. I mean, I always give an example of a small child. If a small child is susceptible to cold, what you first try to do is that, or even an aged person susceptible to cold, that don't go out when it's raining, don't go out when it's cold, don't go out, or you close the window, another thing. Or if you go out, you have an umbrella, or you protect, or the woolen thing. So you are protecting yourself from the environment. But then the preservation come is that, okay, if you have a cold, then you sort of put on some garments or put up something so that you preserve your own body. So first controlling the environment, then preserve. And then if it doesn't happen, then you take some medicine. Okay. So this goes on like that. So this is a sort of an analogy where you can understand. Okay. The other questions have disappeared. Okay. No, it's there. Okay. So I think
Hello, ma'am. These are
preservation
not
is,
questions. I have
no, I think
pasted
they have
this
there. No,
answer.
the earlier I have marked. There is another there is about a civil engineering graduate. Yes, definitely, because there is, I think, Chennai IIT, Madras IIT, there is a very good postgraduate course, which is in the civil engineering department, are doing wonderful work on the structural side. So, I mean, one can do a postgraduate there. That's in India. Okay. I mean, anyone who wants to do that, a course that is very required. There are also courses which are in Italy, they do in collaboration of 2 3 institutes. They are also very good. If you want, we can post that link. We get that link every year. So this course is also very good where the civil engineering can come. But I think otherwise also Ahmedabad has a management course where civil engineering can join. Sociologist also can join. Even I think SP Bhopal also there is a conservation course with the civil engineering course. But if I will think the best one will be IIT Madras if the civil engineering graduates want to join in India some postgraduate course. Is there? The INTAC runs a course, INTAC Heritage Academy. There are the Ahmedabad there is a course, SP Bhopal there is a course, there are other course, but I say for civil engineering and I must mention lawyers, civil engineers. These are the very important part because the structure is the backbone that I mean one has to understand. So having a structural engineer who understand conservation is a very good. It's a mm, great advantage to have them in the team because I mean structural engineer who doesn't understand the conservation the way one will approach that issue, and a structural engineer who sort of understand conservation will approach the issue in a very different way. So that's why it's very, very important that the lot of civil engineering graduates also join that course. So I have taken care of that. Pallavi Pathak, using the original materials for rehabilitation might be very expensive on certain cases. Can you suggest some way to reduce the cost? Oh, no, it's not always original material. Sometimes, as I say, the materials which are harmonious. So one is harmonious in terms of looks, but more than that, it is harmonious in terms of compatibility or the behavior. Okay, so that because if you try to save the money here to give some material which is not compatible in its behavior to the original material, it will do further damage. I'll give you an example. I think I've shown that some of the people use the cement, okay, as a mortar, and they say it's easy and other things does not get to other, or sometimes the stone machinery is not get, but even if a different type of stone is used which may look same but which probably is behavior is different, the it how it reacts to the water, how it reacts to the environment pollution, that can also damage what is still existing. So it's very important to understand. That's why even the engineering stream who takes of the kid the materials, they are very important. I remember IIT once took up the Bhubaneswar Puri temple. There is a very lot of contribution came not only from the structural engineers but also from the our material science department. So the understanding the materials is also very important. So the cost is a very relative term. Suppose when you are this cost maybe at the time looks a little exorbitant, but if you take a long term, if it is necessary, so the necessity is actually, so as I say, the cost is a very relative term. It should not do any harm to the existing material, because that is also very precious. Sometimes it's not easy to find. So the behavior of the material which is you are taking, not only look wise but behavior wise, is very important. That's why the people who are expert in that will be things. I, Parvati Jayaprakash, our civil engineer, can get into the field of conservation, heritage conservation. I already addressed that one can do a post graduation in that. One can work with conservation in a conservation team. There are so many courses I already mentioned. So these are very important, and they are a very, very important part of the team, especially in the disaster management, in the structural and other things. To my mind, I think that's the best course in India so far. If one really wants to take that structural part. Otherwise, there's a management side also. The other colleges are there. Anil Panikar, which all extra material we have to refer? Okay, extra material is that sometimes in this, along with the slides, I've given the link. So please check that link. And also we have uploaded some of the material, reading materials, take that materials. And also we will be uploading more materials, as I say, charters, convention and other, and some case studies which we are not able to put that, we will upload that. So please have a look at that. So these are the things, as I say, the all the UNESCO guidelines and other, have a look at that, the charters and the case studies which you are referring. We couldn't accommodate that, or they we could sort of only mention in a little briefly. You can things. Ashina Prabhu, Madam, what are the career opportunities in architecture conservation? Like, what should be the educational path if wants to work in the field of conservation? Okay. It is really emerging as a very important field, and one can to the post graduation and later on PhD if one wants to be in academics, that's one. But one if wants to practice, I think a specialization is required. There are different options. In India, I said one is the Madras IIT structure and the other material sides, they're very strong. And then there is Ahmedabad, there is a management site where again they talk School of Planning and Architecture, Bhopal. They also have a post-graduation School of Planning and Architecture. Delhi has also a present thing. So this is when you study, specialize in that post-graduation, and then you start and the Heritage Academic in Intac, and there are a few more. And you can also go abroad. There are a lot of very, very well recognized, and each school or others have a very different orientation. So you can search for that to that if you want to do post graduation and other. So this is the educational path I've been talking about, and then later on you can do practice plus academics and be start your own practice. These are all possibility are there, and always you don't have to. There are a lot of people who are going into promotional activities of like the digital. Kanpur IIT also is working a lot of digital representation, presentation, management. This is a lot of requirement in the management of conservation, because these actually where the practical implementation comes. So management of conservation is very important part. Yeah, there are a lot of short-term courses also are being offered by ICROM, other things, and even in India, Heritage Academy, INTAC, and others. So one can take care of the short-term course. Ajit Kumar Jha, please tell us about the current issue regarding conservation. If you just ask me one thing is the awareness. The awareness is the major issue, that people have a lot of misconception about conservation. When we do the next 2 weeks course, we will see that how conservation has to be a part of the development process. So far, people think in India especially, the conservation old building and ASI will take care of that, or Intact will take care of that. It's not a part of the development, but it's not that. It has to be integrated as a part of the development. You will see in the next 2 weeks, you get a glimpse that how even in a conservation area, new buildings can come up and new structures can come up in a very sensitive way, and they can be add a lot to the value of our heritage. So I think this awareness and making it a part of the development process, because conservation is something not isolated. It has to be integrated with the entire development. A city or a place is layers of history, and we in our generation are trying to contribute in that layer for the future generation. So it shouldn't be taken as a separate thing. It should be that integrating conservation based development and awareness and community involvement. I think these are the major challenges, major issues which are taken care of that. Uh, I don't know how many have joined late. I don't see any more question, but let me just again repeat where I have started. Those who joined late is that please do the assignments, even if you missed the deadline to submit it, to the assignments on your own, self-evaluate yourself for better understanding. And then if you have question, you ask us. Then we will able to come in the discussion forum. We will able to discuss that. So that assignment is an application of that. Another is whatever references are given in the slideshow or the reading material, which will be uploading more, please go through that at your time and other thing and read that, even not now, later on. But if you're appearing for exam, it's also important to go through those other things in a little more detail, and also get an idea of the major charters and convention, upload them, I mean download them or see them or refer them. This is what is very important. There was a question about a reclamation, which I have lost somewhere, but somebody was asked me about a reclamation. that let me just check this. Reclamation. Yeah. Okay. So what is a reclamation and what is the difference between a restoration? Reclamation, the example of reclamation is the Marina Beach in Bombay, where the land has been reclaimed from the sea and there has been development. Okay. So this is not restoration. Restoration is going back to the original concept. So reclamation is different thing and restoration is a different thing. Reclamation cannot be, you are reclaiming something, and it's in terms of natural resources and other things, especially in terms of land from the sea. Another thing is a reclamation, which is maybe basic, some ideas are common, but it's different. We don't say restoration as reclamation. There is a very different thing. And
And there is a question regarding government initiative in this and their role.
regarding what? Regarding conservation, the government initiative. Yes, as I say, I think I have, we now realize that the last 2 weeks we have tried to put a lot of things about the government role. Again, I'm mentioning the government alone cannot do anything, and conservation cannot be only a top-down approach. But yes, government role is important to facilitate, to understand, like the policies, the rules, the acts, the government, and also the support, the finance, grants, loans. These are important to enable the conservation. That is the government's role. The very important one they are saying, they are trying to take care of, but now more and more it has been realized that it has to be public-private partnership, but for a good intention, okay, and keeping the values intact. There cannot be. This is very important in the government's role. They have a lot of role because the without the proper act can be there, but the implementation of the act also government has to take care of that. And also, as I say, that it's a dialogue process of dialogue, that one has to have a continuous dialogue with the government. Government also has to have a good intention. And I'm not going to the specific cases, but we know that there can be misrepresentation or what should I say, overemphasis on something and not taking care of the other thing. So actual concept, sometimes because of some other reason, is taken aside, and there the people's role become very important, and that's why the community organization, the people who are working like intact, they cannot be a part of the government. They have to be outside the government, so that even if the government says something, they act as a watchdog. So the government has, and the community and the NGOs, they have to work hand in hand. So and there is a lectures. One of the session is on the government and the non-governmental organization. They, as I say, it's a collaborative thing. Have to take care of that. Everybody can't be government, but the government are the major things where policies, programs, acts, rules, grants, all of these are very important. All the things. Durga Shankar Dirghangi, ancient temple 200, 300 years back are constructed with available resources like brick, stone, lime, etc. At present, most of the temples are not in good condition, require restoration. Cement should not be used or synthetic color should not be used. Then how will restore them? Any alternative chemical or soft materials are available. I have repeatedly saying that uh, the best thing is to get the original material. So lime is there. Most of the structure, the old structure are done, if they were originally with lime, they're being done with lime. It's not available. Sometimes people don't have forgotten. It's not so easy. So the training capacity building is very, very important. And again, I'm saying that if something is don't take a quick fix process, because ultimately the quick fix process will be dangerous in a long run. So it's not compatible in terms of visually, but also compatible in terms of health, because even in your body, if that you are allergic to something and you take that or put that on your building, it will cause more danger to your health. So it have to take in that time. So cement sometimes the building has to breathe. So if the building, you stop the breathing of the building, then it will give a lot of damage. I will take a very simple cases. A lot of old buildings, there is a damage which comes from the bottom. And people, what they do, it looks a lot of bad patches. So they, with the synthetic paint, enamel paint, they paint that. So what happens? The damage cannot, the water cannot breathe out, it cannot come out. So it goes up. And I have seen buildings in that cases where the dampness goes up to the ceiling, because you're not giving a chance to breathe out, you're blocking the pores. That's why it is very important to understand that it's bricks are available, stone and lime all are available. Who says it's not available? Sometimes people, if you're very important, people go and take that to the original quarry where it was there. If it's not there, get a similar material, because you are, it's like your I mean, I'll take an analogy. It's like your aged parent or grandparent whose life is very important. So that's, you cannot do that in terms of the normal thing. It's in health of something which you value. That's why I discuss so much about the value, which is the crux of the heritage. If you understand that value, if you understand the significance, that why of conservation, then these questions will never come up. You need more care, you need more searching. Suppose you take a blood infusion to a person. One is something a B positive, another is a O negative. You don't give because the blood is required. You just take any blood. The blood has to be compatible. Otherwise, it will endanger the life of that person. So it's exactly like that. Even if it's not possible, you say if someone is ill, you said, okay, at any cost, have to get that blood. So it is like that, that if it's not compatible, it will do more harm and the structure can die. So that's why the value again and again become very important. It's why, because you're valuing that, there is a value. And that has to be first established. Why the value is not, that has been discussed in very, very much detail in the first 2, 3 lectures. So I think that is very thing. So I mean, I don't understand this question, because there is, and yes, alternative chemical and soft materials are, if there is an available, the people who deal with the material and other thing, the modern technology can always come. But like we don't use the iron now, we give the stainless steel, another thing which is not corrode, another thing. We can always, but do the tasting. Though there are the testing labs, take the expert help, that whether this will be compatible with that. So that tasting, that assessment is required, even if that takes time. So that is what is required. Like you go to a doctor to say, or a laboratory to say that, okay, this will happen or this will. So he has to take with the same care. So that is possible. And I don't think that it's not available. It's all the things are available. You need capacity building, you need more care, you need more effort, because again I'm saying come, because they are valuable and very precious. Vanita, any more question, or some people have joined late?
Yes, I'm just copying. Can you see the message, ma'am?
What this inside Taj Mahal's basement under the big platform, who all are involved in maintaining that? The entire Taj Mahal is maintained by Archaeological Survey of India. It's a World Heritage Site and under ASI. So as we know that, I mean, some part of the that under the platform is available. They are the tombs of which are there, and it is accessible. At least it was accessible earlier. It should be accessible now also. So they're there, and only 5 minutes are remoting. Foundation stabilize, such as underpinning, how is done? I think the foundation stabilization underpinning, we have already talked about that in this week, isn't Vanita? The diagnosis has already been done. The 6th over. The underpinning has been done. So it has been done in this week, the underpinning. Sixth, Vanita, 6th is being done. I think, uh, I'll just check. Underpinning, yes, we have discussed about underpinning in the investigation. And
Sixth has been done already.
yeah, it has been done. So underpinning. So what is basically the principle of underpinning? There are two principles. One is you go down the foundation, that is underpinning, that's the key word. And the the expanding the foundation, you go wider. Okay. So when you cannot go expand, or if go wider, then you go down the underpinning. So what you have to do underpinning, it is like, I'll give a very simple example. When a car tire, you have to fill the air. What do? You hide, I mean, jack the car on some temporary material, or temporary frame and jack, and then you put the tire, change the tire. It's like that. We have done that in Calcutta, Fort William, that there was a problem. I haven't discussed that here, but I mean, when you really take the load out of that and you support that part of the building on a temporary structure, and then you do the fill up the foundation under the foundation. Okay, so you do the underpinning. You can do it by piles, you can do it by doing a new construction. Because now, whether you do underpinning or you do by the widening, it depends also a lot of that, what type of soil is there, what is the real problem. So all of this, and whether there is a space. So I think, and also I think I have given some reference of also the foundation underpinning, and you can also search. I think there is a very good material by Bakeman. If you need more information after you go by 6 weeks course on underpinning, you just tell us. We'll try to see there are one or two papers which more on the underpinning, like the York Minister. You know, your minister is a sort of widening the foundation, but pre-stress. This is a little bit technical because you are always adjusting the stressing, because it was on a clay, silty soil. So that's why it was required of that. That because when the foundation you give the more thing, the building will go down, and then you have to again sort of adjust. So the York Minister, if you see that in detail, and if you have the reference material, if it's there, then you will understand that. And many of these are available on the internet, to please search that. But if you need more information after going through the uh, course of the lectures of 6th week, this week which is just over or is on, just send us a note. We'll try to get more information, or the same thing what we have discussed, we will give more, share the articles on that. Okay. Foundation stabilization. Yeah, these are the ways. One is that, or sometimes you also give a grouting on the
Ma'am,
foundation, on the soil
there is a
surrounding.
question.
This is the underpinning.
There
Yes,
is a question regarding how Indian heritage can play role in tourism sector and
how?
potential regarding it. Indian heritage can play role in tourism sector.
Yeah, lot of role, because it sort of gives a lot of economy awareness, economy to other, but this also has to be balanced, because if there is a too much of pressure due to tourism, it can also take a great problem. So that the management comes, that how you manage it. But tourism is a very important part. And also the recent crisis has showed us that because a lot of these places have been dependent on the global tourism, and they are really in a very bad shape. A lot of discussion has been going on and how to do that. So what is coming more and more important is the local tourism. And to survive that, tourism is an important thing, heritage and tourism. But I will just give a one word for that. Don't do anything for the tourism, because if the tourism is the objective, this can also eat away or the damage the original value of a site or structure. If you maintain that well, tourism will happen. Tourists want to see the authentic experience. So tourism should not be the objective, but the tourism can be a part of it. It can be managed, and it can revive, it can bring awareness, it can bring economy and other things. So there's a lot of work going on the tourism. I think we have discussed a little bit of that in our lecture, but this is very important. Don't do anything for tourism. Tourists, if you do it well and take manage it well, but even the management of tourism also required accessibility, facilities, and others things. All of this. So there are the heritage districts and other. I'll just give one example. The the tourist, if you say okay, the tourists want to have the entire view. You want to have a total resorts just near the preserve site and other, but that can sort of interfere with the visual integrity of the place if you give too much importance on the tourism. So that balance has to be there. What is important? That authenticity, integrity of the site has to be managed, and the tourism also has to be can be managed very well. So here the management becomes a very important role. I think our time is over, and we will have a next tentatively. We have fixed our next meeting on the 5th, and by that time the last week's lecture will be available. If you think that we have to defer it a little bit, we have to give us the feedback, and we will see if it can be deferred. But tentatively, it is decided now on the 5th of April, on the last Monday of the last week, where you will have some idea about what are the lectures. If you want to complete the course and this thing, send us. We will have to check the availability of that. But this is about your last week. By that time, the 2 weeks courses, you will have an idea of especially the broader, the cities, districts, and other thing. And we will give you an idea of that, and we'll discuss. Please give us the question beforehand so that we can discuss. And again, thank you once again. Give us the feedback. What are your issue? Thank you for joining. And I think we have to, we have 8 minutes more or 6, 7 minutes more. Just ask the NPTEL team. Are we over the time? Are there any
Yes, ma'am.
questions?
Time is up.
Time is up. Okay. Then, okay. Good evening. Thank you very much. And I think we wanted to clarify, we tried to clarify your issues. All the best. And as I say, next 2 weeks are very, very intensive. Please send us your queries in the discussion forum. We'll try to address. Um, okay. Your queries regarding assignments and certificate will be answered in the portal. Okay. Thank you. Good night. All the best. Thank you. You can, we can now, Shurav, you can finish the call.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Shurav. Done.